Chapter 1, Part 2. The walk home was a blur of rain and racing thoughts. Angela replayed the detention scene obsessively. Anthony's focused intensity, the rasp of charcoal, the startled vulnerability in his eyes when caught. That sketch, her sketch, felt like a physical imprint on her mind. Megan intercepted her at the Harbor's End bus stop, vibrating with suppressed energy. "Operation Moretti faxes live," she announced, shoving her phone under Angela's nose. A new Instagram account glared back at Moretti fax. The bio read, "Exposing Crestwood's gilded liar. Anonymous sources welcome." 3 posts dominated the feed. A grainy photo of Anthony accepting a trophy at last year's academic decathlon regionals. Caption: "How convenient that his team's main rival got food poisoning the night before." Source: disgruntled caterer's kid. Hashtag luck or lies? A screenshot of a sleek charity gala invitation hosted by the Moretti Foundation. Caption: $500, a plate to save the harbor. Ask mom where the dollar really goes. Hint: not to Harbor's End. Hashtag philanthropy or tax write-off. Asterisk. A close-up of Anthony's Range Rover tire tread, packed with dried mud. Caption: spotted tearing through protected dune grass at Dungeness Spit last weekend. Wildlife wheels prints? Hashtag rules don't apply. It's already got 200 followers, Megan whispered fiercely. Half the sophomore class shared it. Angela's stomach dropped. Megan, this isn't ignoring. This is a declaration of total war. Exactly. Megan grinned. He wants to play dirty? We've got mud. Look. She refreshed the page. A new comment popped up from at Crestwood Gossip Hive. Heard he paid someone to write his Whitman essay. Hashtag bought not brought. This is spiraling. Angela breathed, cold dread prickling her skin. Take it down. Are you kidding? This is gold. Watch. Megan tapped furiously. A direct message notification chimed. She showed Angela. At a non-source 99. Check his calculus grade versus quiz scores. Sketchy jump after private tutoring with Mrs. Keating. Might be extra credit. Winky face. Megan's eyes gleamed. See? The people want this. Anthony discovered at Moretti fax during advanced calculus. Liam slid his phone across the desk, screen lit with the accusing tire tread post. Anthony's expression didn't change. He read each post slowly, knuckles whitening around his gold-plated pen. The ambient chatter of the classroom faded into a low buzz. "Who's the coward?" Liam muttered. Anthony didn't answer. He opened his own phone, typed 3 rapid-fire commands into a corporate-level security app his father insisted he install, and waited. 10 seconds later, a notification flashed. Asterisk account geolocation, Crestwood High Library, Terminal 7. User, Megan Chun, asterisk. A glacial calm settled over him. He closed his eyes, inhaled slowly, then texted his driver. Pick up at 2:45. Bring the black portfolio. The retaliation hit during 6th period art history. Mrs. Delaney, her usual drowsy demeanor replaced with flinty disapproval, appeared at Angela's classroom door. Angela Mitchell, principal's office. Immediately. Whispers erupted as Angela gathered her things. Megan shot her a panicked look. The walk to the administration wing felt like a death march. Rain lashed the skylights overhead. Outside Principal Vance's door sat Anthony, legs crossed elegantly, flipping through a thick leather-bound portfolio. He didn't look up. "Miss Mitchell," Vance began the moment she entered. His office smelled of lemon polish and tension. "A serious allegation has been brought to my attention." He slid a printed sheet across his immaculate desk. It was an official facilities work order. Date: yesterday. Location: main hallway, east wing. Issue: Unapproved flyers affixed to lockers with non-removable adhesive. Action taken. Janitorial staff, P. Henderson, spent 1.5 hours removing residue. Damage. Permanent scuffing to locker number 217. EST repair cost, $175. Violation. Sector 4.3, unauthorized posting. Sector 8.1, vandalism of school property. These, Vance tapped the paper, are your coastal cleanup flyers, correct? The ones without ASB approval. Angela's mouth went dry. Yes, but... Anthony spoke from the doorway. His voice was smooth, devoid of triumph. Coldly procedural. I documented the damage this morning, Principal Vance. Photographs are in Appendix B. He placed the open portfolio on the desk. High-resolution images showed gleaming lockers marred by cloudy white streaks where flyers had been ripped away. As Student Activities Treasurer, I'm obligated to report misuse of funds and property. The adhesive used was industrial grade, not standard poster putty. He met Angela's stunned gaze. A rather aggressive choice, Mitchell. He'd planned this. The realization hit her like ice water. He hadn't just reported the flyers. He'd waited, gathered forensic-level evidence, calculated repair costs. Vandalism is a suspendable offense, Miss Mitchell, Vance said sternly. Given the deliberate circumvention of approval protocols and the property damage. With respect, Principal Vance, Anthony interjected smoothly. Suspension seems excessive for a first offense. Community service, perhaps? Restitution for the locker repair. His blue eyes held Angela's. They offered no mercy, only a terrifyingly polite efficiency. I'd hate to see a scholarship student jeopardize her record over litter flyers. The condescension was a velvet-wrapped knife. He wasn't saving her. He was showcasing his power to wound or spare. Vance nodded. Agreed. 20 hours community service assisting janitorial. Repayment plan for the $175 damage. And probation within student government for the remainder of the term. He stood, signaling dismissal. Consider this a lesson in consequences, Miss Mitchell. Rules exist for a reason. Anthony collected his portfolio. As Angela stumbled out, numb, he paused beside her in the empty hallway. Your friend Megan, he said softly, not looking at her, has an overactive imagination and a dangerously traceable IP address. He finally turned. His smile was a thin Arctic curve. Tell her to delete at Moretti Facts. Or her college recommendation letters vanish. All of them. He walked away, the click of his designer loafers echoing like gunshots on the polished floor. Angela found it tucked under the leg of her detention desk, half hidden by a clay-smeared drop cloth. A single sheet of heavy sketching paper, roughly torn from the pad. The charcoal rendering was stunningly detailed, her profile bent over Wuthering Heights, a loose strand of hair catching the gray light, her brow furrowed in concentration. He'd captured the stubborn set of her jaw, the slight tension in her shoulders. It wasn't cruel. It was fascinated. And slashed diagonally across the image, defacing it, were two savage charcoal lines, an angry, deliberate X. She traced the torn edge, her finger coming away smudged with black. Salt spray and rain battered the windows. The war wasn't just declared anymore. It had scorched the earth. The rain had turned to a relentless, icy drizzle by the time Angela reached the weathered stoop of her saltbox house. The scent of simmering chowder, her mother's attempt at comfort food, did little to warm the chill inside her. The torn sketch felt like a live wire in her pocket. Megan was already inside, pacing the cramped living room. Her face was pale, eyes wide with panic. He knows, she blurted before Angela could shut the door. He knows it was me. He threatened my recommendations. All of them. Stanford, Read, they're gone if I don't delete it. Tears welled. My parents will kill me. Angela hung her soaked jacket, the weight of the day pressing down. You should have listened. He doesn't fight fair, Meg. He fights to annihilate. I was trying to help. Megan's voice cracked. He destroyed your proposal, got you detention and janitor duty, and a bill you can't pay. He deserves consequences, Angela interrupted, her voice low and tired. But not like that. Not lies and ambushes. That just makes us like him. Delete the account, Megan. Now. The fight drained out of Megan. She slumped onto the worn sofa, pulling out her phone with trembling fingers. The bright screen illuminated her tear-streaked face as she logged into @Moretti Facts, hesitated for a heart-stopping moment, then tapped delete account. It vanished with a chilling finality. He wins, Megan whispered, the phone clattering to the floor. Not yet, Angela murmured, thinking of the torn sketch, the vulnerability she'd glimpsed. He just thinks he did. She pulled out the Tide log notebook Coach Russo had given her, its worn leather a small anchor. Help me find another cleanup site. Somewhere the plovers don't nest. Somewhere he can't sabotage. The Moretti estate wasn't a house. It was an assertion. Perched on windswept cliffs overlooking the churning strait, its glass walls reflected the stormy twilight like cold, watchful eyes. Inside, the air was hushed, smelling of expensive polish and something antiseptic. Anthony stood rigidly in his father's cavernous study, the leather portfolio still clutched in his hand. Eleanor Moretti sat behind the obsidian desk, her posture unnervingly perfect. She hadn't aged so much as congealed, blonde hair sculpted into an immaculate helmet, eyes the same glacial blue as Anthony's, but devoid of any spark. She scrolled through screenshots of @Moretti Facts on her tablet, her expression unreadable. #philanthropy or tax write-off? She read aloud, her voice like shards of glass scraping marble. Charming. It's deleted, Mother, Anthony said, his own voice carefully neutral. The source was neutralized. No lasting damage. Eleanor set the tablet down with deliberate softness. Damage. A razor-thin smile touched her lips. This is a gnat buzzing at the window, Anthony. Annoying but irrelevant. She steepled her fingers. The damage is in the exposure. It draws eyes. Questions. Unwanted attention to matters best left opaque. Her gaze pinned him. Your handling of the Mitchell girl was adequate. Janitorial service. Financial penalty. It reinforces the necessary order. But this digital flotsam. She gestured dismissively at the tablet. It suggests a lack of control. Over your environment. Over your associates. Anthony felt a familiar knot tighten in his chest. Liam showed me. I dealt with it within hours. Reaction is not control, Anthony, Eleanor stated coldly. Control is prevention. It is ensuring no one dares to lift a finger against you. It is projecting invulnerability so absolute, it never occurs to them to try. She rose, smoothing her flawlessly tailored skirt. Your father will hear about this. The carelessness. The noise. She walked towards a window, staring out at the turbulent sea. Mitchell. Harbor's end trash. Her father drowned chasing minnows. Her mother. Eleanor's lip curled faintly. Sickness is expensive. Desperation makes people reckless. Remember that. Exploited if necessary. But do not let their squalor splash onto us. She turned, her eyes glacial. Clean it up. Permanently. Or I will. She left the study, the click of her heels echoing in the suffocating silence. Anthony remained frozen. The cold efficiency of his victory over Angela curdled into something darker, tainted by his mother's venom and the unspoken threat. He looked down at the portfolio. Inside, tucked behind the locker-damaged photos, was the original sketch, the one before he defaced it. Angela, intense and unaware. A moment of stolen honesty. He slammed the portfolio shut. The next afternoon, the rain had eased to a damp mist clinging to the ancient firs surrounding Split Rock. Angela walked the familiar, slippery path down to the cove, Coach Russo's tide log in hand. She needed air, space, a place to think away from Megan's guilt and her mother's worried eyes. The rhythmic crash of waves against the massive, sea-split boulder was a primal comfort. She found the small, sheltered niche on the lee side of the rock, her father's favorite spot. Pulling out the notebook, she flipped to his entries about spring currents. As she read, a figure materialized from the mist at the far end of the cove. Anthony. He stood at the tide line, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his dark wool coat, staring out at the gray horizon. He looked less like a prince and more like a shipwreck survivor, pale, tense, shoulders hunched against the damp cold. The effortless arrogance was gone, replaced by a raw, bleak exhaustion Angela recognized deep in her own bones. He hadn't seen her. Slowly, silently, Angela closed the notebook. She should leave. Slip away. This fragile truce of distance wouldn't last. But the memory of his mother's words, overheard once at a school fundraiser, echoed. Appearances are armor, Anthony. Never remove it. Seeing him now, armorless and adrift, felt like witnessing something forbidden. Dangerous. She took a step. A loose stone skittered under her worn boot. Anthony whirled around. His eyes, wide and startled, locked onto hers. For a heartbeat, the raw vulnerability she'd seen in detention was back, magnified tenfold by the desolate shore and the crashing waves. Then, like shutters slamming closed, his expression hardened into a mask of icy disdain. But it was too late. She'd seen what lay beneath. "What are you doing here, Mitchell?" His voice was rough, stripped of its usual polished control. "Come to gloat? Or document more facts?" Angela held up the tide log. "Research. For the cleanup you torpedoed." She met his glare. "Unlike you, I don't stalk people." A bitter, humorless laugh escaped him.
"Right.
Saint Angela. Too pure for dirty tactics." He took a step closer, the damp sand muffling his tread. "Tell me, how does it feel? Knowing you cost your friend her shot at Stanford? Knowing you're scrubbing toilets to pay for locker scuffs?" His eyes raked over her worn jacket. "Does desperation taste like salt, Mitchell?" The cruelty was reflexive, a weapon drawn on instinct. But Angela saw the flicker behind it, the same trapped animal look she'd seen when Eleanor spoke. "It tastes like rain," she said quietly, holding his gaze. "Like it always does." She nodded towards the cliffs where his glass fortress loomed. "What does control taste like, Moretti? Is it worth the poison?" He flinched as if struck. The mask slipped again, revealing a flash of pure, unguarded fury and something else, a terrifying loneliness. "You have no idea what you're talking about," he snarled, but the words lacked force. "Don't I?" Angela took another step, closing the distance. The roar of the waves filled the space between them. "Your mother found the account, didn't she? That's the real damage. Not the posts. The noise." She used his mother's word deliberately. Anthony froze. The color drained from his face. "How?" "I know what it costs," Angela whispered, the truth tumbling out before she could stop it. The armor. The performance. The constant fear of being seen. She thought of her mother's forced smiles, the hidden medical bills, the relentless struggle to appear okay. "It's exhausting, isn't it?" He stared at her, his icy blue eyes wide, searching her face, as if seeing it for the first time. The wind whipped a strand of his blonde hair across his forehead. The hostility bled away, replaced by a stunned, wary confusion. The vast, mist-shrouded cove seemed to shrink, containing only them, the rock, and the thundering sea. For a long, suspended moment, they just looked at each other. Enemies stripped bare by circumstance and the relentless Pacific rain. The lines drawn in student council meetings and detention rooms blurred into irrelevance. Then, a sharp electronic chirp shattered the fragile silence. Anthony's phone. He glanced down, his expression instantly hardening back into its familiar, impenetrable cast as he read the screen. Stay away from me, Mitchell, he said, his voice flat and cold, the brief connection severed. He shoved the phone back in his pocket and turned, striding back towards the path without a backward glance. But before he vanished into the mist, he paused. Not looking back, he spoke again, the words carried on the salt-laden wind. We're not done. Angela stood alone by Split Rock, the tied log clutched tight. The encounter left her shaken. She hadn't won, but the battlefield had irrevocably changed. She pulled out her own buzzing phone, a text from her mother. Need you home, sweetheart. Got the bill from Dr. Evans. We need to talk. The cold dread that settled in her stomach had nothing to do with Anthony Moretti and everything to do with the crumbling ground beneath her own feet. The war had just gotten infinitely more complicated.